Hey folks, welcome back to another round of Humans of DataHub. This week we are joined by one of our community members, Atul. Atul, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about who you are, where you work, what you do. And yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
Sure. Hey everyone, and thanks Maggie for having me here. Um, I am Atul Saurav. I work for Genworth Financial. We are a financial services organization, which means we have offerings in insurance, we have offerings in annuities, we have offerings in mortgage insurance, and so on. Right? So primarily, if you look at it from this way, in financial services domain, my role in the organization is I am the architect of data governance team in the organization. And what that means is that in a financial service or insurance, which has always been a very regulated industry, the concept of governance is not new. It's always been around. But what's new and what I'm particularly excited about is how we're approaching it. It has always been a very manual, collaborative stuff. It continues to remain collaborative, but we are slowly trying to remove that manual aspect of it and try to get most of it automated so people can start seeing value in the data that they have in the smallest lead time possible. So yeah, that's all about me. That's what I do for my day job.
That's awesome. So, how did you even find out about DataHub? Like, what brought you to the community? Obviously, if you're working towards automated data governance, you came to the right place. We're so happy to have you. But yeah, how did you find out about us? And
yeah, so it was Strata conference of 2019.
okay,
I was there, and I was actually I witnessed Srishanka in that talk live.
yeah,
This is what we should be doing because Srishanka talked about at that time warehouse. The name was interesting, right? Warehouse.
yeah.
Right.
I remember
So
this. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is really interesting. And what particularly excited me about the talk was it talked to some of the challenges that we were going through. So the challenges that we were going through were things like, hey, we have this process, this pipeline that feeds this table, and we want to be able to understand the lineage. We want to be able to understand what's going on. So your governance, how about you figure out all this stuff for me and demystify it for me?
Sure.
And the
Should
nice
be
idea,
easy, right?
yeah, it should be really easy
Yeah, just to do it
if
by the
done
end of
the
the week.
correct way, right? So
Yeah.
what Shashanka said was that at LinkedIn, they had already tried the pull aspect of things where they were going into the content, parsing things out. And that's precisely where we were at that point in time. And all the challenges that he spoke clearly resonated with me. So I was like,
Yeah.
we've got to do this. So I was totally thrilled with the talk, met Srishanka right after the talk. Um, but then at that point, we had already signed a contract with one of the commercial products which was out there. And we kept looking at DataHub from that point in time, but we were like, this thing extends for so many years, which means if we want to go in that direction, then it's not going to be happening sooner than that.
Sure.
So we're kind of withheld by a little bit of that. And we're also like, okay, let's see where we can get with what we have, right? Because we've invested so much. So that's what was going on for quite some time. But we were able to leverage a lot of that learning from that other commercial offering. And we were so happy that some of those challenges that we had in the product. So what happens is when I speak to challenges, I probably should be more specific. There are a lot of data catalog and data governance related products out there in market today. And a lot of them that we have evaluated so far happens to be their pricing model is such that, okay, if you have one execution of this, that counts, right? Which means even if I do repeat execution, I'm paying more money out of it.
Sure.
Or if you have X number of data sources, then every connection that you make to a data source to pull some metadata out of it, that counts towards your license. And Genworth being a company that grew over acquisitions in the past so many years, we have a lot of data across a lot of different data sources, which is just there because of the nature of how the company grew, right?
Sure.
So all those pricing models just didn't make any economic sense to
Like
us.
you're almost like punished for
Yeah,
those act
for
like
all that data
because the
that we
company
have.
grew and acquired.
Yeah. So the thing that excited us about DataHub was now I can have one catalog where
Hmm.
pretty much everything in the organization that exists is discoverable.
Yeah.
And that was our challenge, right? Initially, when we did our work with other products also, we would constantly meet users and they would say, okay, this is great, but where is my stuff?
Mm.
And we'd say, oh, here it is. You can look for it. And there'd always be things which were not there because we were always focused on saying, okay, what is important for the organization? Because we can only have X number of connections based on the license.
Sure. Sure.
So they would always come up with something which we had not cataloged. And that brought down the level of trust in what we were
Mm.
trying to offer to the
Yeah.
organization. And that was like a huge setback. You make two steps forward, one step back, two steps forward, one step
Right.
back.
Right.
And we're able to get rid of that bottleneck with DataHub because we can totally connect to all different kinds of sources, bring in
Yeah.
everything. Now, if someone says, hey, where is my content? I'm like, search for it. You should find it.
You'll find
And if it's not there, let me know because it has to be there. Everything needs to be.
right.
And that's quite compelling in itself because any data user, I mean, even me, if I go in that space and I'm working in that, who knows, analyst, ETL developer, BI, report writers, data scientists, whoever, I usually come in with a perspective of, I know this data, but is that correct or is that even true? Because
Right.
there's probably more data, there's probably
Right.
better data out there. And if I don't do that due diligence, then I may just be portraying a partial picture with the limited knowledge of the data that I have.
Right.
So being able to create that full picture of the entire data landscape in the organization, that's really exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, I don't love the idea of losing trust, but I think I hear this a lot from community members. Like we really, the level of trust when end users come in, it's so important for that
Yeah.
investment, right? And it's
Yeah.
also extremely easy to start losing trust very fast.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like you get a few chances to get people to understand what's going on. Why is this worth their attention? And then
Right.
if there's just these kind of glaring gaps with seemingly, not a very easy to understand reason why, right? Like if you have a limited number of connectors and you just had to choose a few, like that's not like a clear reason for them to understand why it might be missing, right?
Yeah.
Or
And
not
who is
intuitive
to
for
say
them.
that a particular data is not important?
Right.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
something may be totally important to you, may not be important to me. And if I was the
100%.
person in that meeting that day, then you will not trust my product.
Right. Like you don't understand what's important to me, so
Yeah.
why should I even
Yeah.
go here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Super interesting. Um, so thinking about your work within DataHub now and kind of rolling it out within your organization, what are some of the most powerful use cases or features within DataHub that you're seeing either kind of like a lot of excitement about or maybe like higher adoption?
Just the sheer fact that I can have all the data in the organization discoverable inside
Hmm.
DataHub, that itself is quite powerful. Um, People have been asking for column level lineage.
Sure.
We had that in our previous product that we were working with, and we had mixed kind of reviews about that
Mm,
from our users because some users totally loved it. Some users were like, this is not true. It can't be so complicated.
yeah.
And you're like, okay, so if you feel this is complicated, then it's a good kind of an eye opener at this point because if you as a business user thinks there needs to be only 3 steps in this process or it does not need to
Mm,
connect to all of that, then maybe it warrants a discussion with the developer who built this
totally.
because he probably was trying to solve some problem that you're not aware of,
Yeah.
or maybe he overcomplicated because he did not understand something,
Right.
right? And you could
Right.
simplify it for that person, right? And that data becomes much more robust and much more usable, much more trustworthy just based on that discussion. So column level lineage, even though it's really powerful, we are kind of stepping slowly on that
Mm,
as I believe it will slowly mature. And we're happy to contribute ideas on that as well based on our past learnings.
yeah.
being able to model new concepts into DataHub with
Yeah.
minimal code, that's pretty powerful. DataHub and comes with most commonly observed kinds of concepts which is out
Right.
there. But it doesn't prohibit us from creating something new, which we feel is
Yeah.
important. That's really exciting. The actions framework that came in earlier this year, that's
Yeah.
also pretty powerful. We intend to use it. We have not used it yet, but
It's ready for you.
the actions framework is like, hey, so if I tag something here and there's an action looking for that tag, and based on that, I
Hmm.
can trigger some events.
Totally.
That's pretty powerful, and we totally want to leverage that.
I'm curious with the model extension. Um, I agree. Like, I think it's like the no code metadata modeling to me is one of the most powerful
Yeah.
things that we can offer, right? Where it's like, we're gonna start with the bare bones of, we have data sets, dashboards, charts, glossary chart, tag, like all of these things that we know are common across data stacks, but maybe your organization talks about or thinks about entities in a slightly different way. So let's just make
Yeah.
that easy for you to kind of introduce so that it's an intuitive and kind of more native feeling experience for your end users. I'm
Yeah.
curious, can you share some examples of those and like kind of custom types that you've created? Of course,
Yeah,
like
sure.
don't
So
sell any company secrets, but
it's not a company secret. It's just about how you look at things, right? So, I mean, data processes and data pipelines are great, right?
hmm
That's the reality, or that's the physical reality of how things are laid out in the organization. But there's always an abstraction on top of it, on
yeah,
which people usually talk about, like business processes and such,
interesting. Okay.
right? And if you think about it from that perspective, I may have, who knows, a business process which says policies come in and then they go through the underwriting process, an underwriter approves it, and then it becomes a signed policy
Mm,
and the entire life cycle of an insurance policy. Now, if you look at it from a data lineage perspective, that's a fairly complicated lineage on the back end,
sure.
right? So someone who is like totally aware of exactly all those intricacies, they can benefit a lot from the lineage because they can go in and say, okay, if we are capturing this new attribute from a user, then where all does it impact? What does it need
Mm,
to change? And things like that. But from a person who is maybe new to that space or who wants to understand things at a higher level, or maybe even an executive, right? Who
sure.
wants to say, okay, so we launched this new feature, new coverage, new product, whatnot,
hmm
and I want to see how does it impact or how are things going on with this new launch. Okay, it's a new field on some farm, and who knows, bad data may be flowing through all of that.
Yeah.
And it's not sensible for us to show an executive full blown column level lineage saying, hey, you know what, this thing flow here and
Right.
there's some bad data here, so things are blowing up. Doesn't make sense. So we also believe in terms of higher level abstracted business processes, and that is one of the cases that we're trying to model out with DataHub.
Awesome.
The idea being that I should still be able to attach data assets to that process
Totally.
so that, let's say, if a particular data asset has a quality issue or has an operational issue going on, has not been refreshed for past 5 days, whatnot, those things can start to be surfaced in DataHub,
Mm,
right? So
that's
it
really
truly
cool.
becomes a place where you can look at the data and you can really understand how much is your level of trust
Right.
with that data. So that is really powerful. And that reminds me of the other thing, that it's all about the enterprise metadata graph that
Mm,
we are sort of trying to build indirectly.
yeah.
So for that reason, we actually use Neo4j as our graph
Cool.
backend
hmm
because we want to be able to annotate that graph and make it really rich and be able to query it in all different ways.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that being able to introduce new concepts into the graph, being able to form those connections, being able to portray that picture at different levels in the organization, so people
hmm
can still gain value out of it.
That's
Um,
really amazing. I love the idea of in my experience working as both an analyst but then also building out resources for analysts or building out resources based on other like applications output and like building all of these really intricate dependencies, it can become really easy to lose the conceptual mapping to the business.
Yeah.
Right. And so I really like that idea of how do you tie a data entity back to a flow in or a workflow or really like the inner workings of the business, right?
Right.
And make it a little bit more concrete and not just we have thousands of pipelines and they're all equally as important.
Yeah. I mean, those things are important, right? All pipelines are important, but what does it mean at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where does that rubber meet the road is really
Totally.
important. And one of the discussions we were in recently was all about, okay, we are all starting to use AI, machine learning and stuff in our
Hmm.
business practices now. And regulation is just catching up
Sure.
on
Yeah.
AI machine learning space. So it's like you've got to be where that thing is going to land, and you don't know
Yeah.
where it's going to land,
Yeah.
right?
So you better be ready
So
for it.
yeah, so it's like we're all trying to figure out what is that going to look like, and from our perspective, it's like if we're able to capture enough metadata, and if
Hmm.
we're able to create a true picture, a story out of what really happened behind that
Yeah.
decision that was made, then we should be able to meet any regulators need,
Right. Right.
right? And again, that notion of no code, low code extensions, the notion of
Hmm.
being able to annotate the entire enterprise graph with the concepts that may be relevant to my organization, I
Yeah.
find it very powerful and enabling from that
Really
perspective.
cool. So, I mean, it sounds like you have plenty of, existing use cases and places that you want to go or places you want to leverage Data Hub. I'm curious, kind of thinking forward. I mean, now what we're in kind of Q4. Wait, are we in Q4? Geez, yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
We're in Q4 of 2022. We made it. My goodness. So thinking through, kind of the next 6 months, 12 months, kind of specifically within the Data Hub product space, are there any kind of like use cases you want to see us tackle or features or like different types of support that you're excited about?
Um, so, like I said, we are closely observing how the column level lineage mature
Yeah.
because we have seen both sides of it. Um, and some users in our organization still are actively looking for it.
Hmm.
So that is one thing that we are closely following. I believe the low code, we have some ideas which we'll probably share around enhancing the low code, no code extension as well,
Yeah.
because there's definitely some scope for improvement there where it can get much better because reusable patterns occur all the time. And it's
Hmm.
about how do we add more of those so it becomes much more powerful. So that is that space. One of the other areas was around um, scale and performance.
Mm.
So we, because of how we are where we are today, we do bring in a lot of content. So just based on the pure ingestion of metadata at a data set level,
Hmm.
right? We are a pretty decent sized deployment of DataHub. And as we go into column level lineage, that is going to explode.
Ooh, very fast.
Right? So
Extremely fast.
yeah, that is one other area which we want to kind of keep a close tab on. As in, yes, I see that the design is very scalable. On
Hmm.
uh, the architecture is very well thought of, and something I'm really happy about how you guys have done that. Um, but then, as we go into the column level content, it'll get really big and
Yeah.
and hairy because of all those
I mean,
connections from everything to everything. And
it's
with
going to be big.
that,
Yeah.
the users like us who want to say, "Hey, I want to bring in my own concepts and I want to further enrich this content,"
Right. Hmm.
then it'll be exciting. So I'm
It sounds like a good
excited for that to
opportunity.
collaborate and
Yeah.
get that.
Well, I think with the column level lineage stuff in particular, I'm excited. Well, I will be reaching out to partner with you on this because I really want to understand um, how we surface it in a way that's actually meaningful for end
Yeah.
users, because
Yeah.
not only the performance part of it, right? You're going to go, I mean, orders of magnitude of complexity just from
Yeah.
processing, but then there's a human at the end of that that needs to make sense of it. So
Right.
how do we even, especially for organizations that are dealing with, hundreds of thousands of data sets and the intricacies between those, how do we how do we actually like show that in a way that people can look at and say, cool, I am now better informed and not more confused.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to be a really exciting kind of challenge for us to not just say like kind of take calm level lineage off the box, but actually make it um, or take it off of the list, but actually make it an impactful and like reliable resource for folks.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very excited about
Absolutely
that.
happy to collaborate on that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're just like, you'll talk to me about this stuff all day. I love it. All right, one final question for you. And I love this one. Um, if you met someone on the street or someone at work or wherever, and they were thinking about joining the DataHub community or kind of like maybe spinning up DataHub, trying to understand what it is, what's happening, what advice would you give them?
The realm of metadata
Mm,
is still very fertile and growing out there.
yeah.
There's still a lot of problems which are unsolved, a lot of really
Hmm.
interesting problems which are unsolved, which have to be solved for. So it's a really exciting space to be in. Data Hub community in particular, I have found to be very responsive, supportive, welcoming. I mean, there's a getting started channel or introduce yourself channel. Yeah, those two channels are really great, right? Because I came in, I introduced myself, and there were a couple of folks who said, "Hey," and that's always nice to hear from someone because
Totally.
it's like you can go on those communities and then you say something and then no one responds, and who knows, you probably post a question and they're like, "Did you not look at the newbie channel?" And it's already been
Yeah,
so I bet I probably repeated some of those questions which were already asked, but no, the community was really
that's
good.
awesome.
So I mean, I'm probably going it in a long-winded way, but the point is that there is still a lot of exciting stuff that is still to be done in this
Yeah,
area. And being a part of a community that is supportive, that is open, willing to take you in, being willing to collaborate and discuss, that you cannot take that for granted,
yeah,
right? So I would say you have one right there. Go in with an open mind, collaborate, be part
yeah.
of that history that is being created, and yeah, have fun.
I love that. I take a lot of pride in the fact that, we're, as the community grows, like people are still feeling that sense of welcoming and that sense of, if I post a question, I'll get a response, but also if I just say hi,
Yeah,
I'm so and so, I'll also get a response, right? Like
yeah.
there's just kind of
And
that collaborative nature there. It's really, really wonderful.
and not to discount the monthly town halls. They're always amazing.
They're a
They're
lot of
always
fun,
like,
right?
every time you come in, your mind is like totally blown away. What was this? And you're always like, okay, now what else can I do? Oh, now what else am I enabled for? Which is
Yeah,
really exciting.
that's amazing. Yeah, those are fun too. Man. Well, Atul, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Sure,
It's just
pleasure.
you're
Really
a
nice.
fantastic partner in the community, and I'm personally so pleased to be working with you, and I know that the rest of the core team is as well.
It's likewise, Maggie. I think I'm able to work or do what I'm supposed to do better because of all the support I get from you all.
Amazing.
So really thankful for all of
That makes me so happy.
that.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And we'll see you on Slack. Thanks, Atul.
Sure. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
See ya.